Mm. Welcome, everybody. As always, let's begin with a meditation. So you want to take a moment to settle into the body, find a stable posture, and just let the body come to stillness. You may have a lot of energy built up from whatever you were doing today. Just give it the opportunity to settle out. And you can do the same with the mind. You might set the intention to let the mind come to rest on its own time, not needing to try and stop it or change anything, just letting it be. You might let attention rest on the breath, wherever you feel it the most prominently. And maybe at the nostrils or in the throat, in the belly. Just letting attention rest there very gently. You're not forcing anything, you're not needing the breath to be any certain way. Just observing, allowing. how are you holding practice right now? Is there a feeling that something needs to be achieved? Something needs to be different? Or is there just a receptivity and gentleness? If you find some of that wish for the mind or the body to be different, you might see if you can let that go. Just be. Just accept this body and mind and world as they appear. You might check in again with the mind and notice what it's wanting. It might be something big, something very small and subtle. How is the mind dissatisfied with the world right now? Would it like the mind to be quieter, for there to be less thoughts, for pain to go away, or worry or fear to leave, daydreaming, wanting to get something? And what does that wanting feel like? Does it feel good? And you might experiment with letting go, letting things be as they are. It's okay that you don't have everything that you want right now. And what does that letting go feel like? Does that feel good? You might check in this way for the remainder of the meditation. in the last few minutes of meditation, I'll offer a question. What is it that you need to be happy? In some kind of temporary sense, but in a lasting way. What is it you need for lasting happiness? I would invite you to find how you really feel about this. You might have ideas about what the answer to that should be. But how do you really feel about that? What do you really feel that you need to be happy? So, what is it that you need for lasting happiness? I don't know what you answered, but in my experience of being human and knowing other human beings, folks might answer something like, I need my relationship with my partner to be more loving. I need my kids to do it. I tell them. I need my relationship with my parents or my coworkers to be more caring, more easeful. Folks might talk about work. I need some fulfillment in my work. I need success or promotion or power. I might talk about different forms of status. I want to be respected or loved or thought as intelligent or kind. You might talk about the body. I want my body to be healthy and to be capable of certain things, to look a certain way. You might talk about things, material objects. I spent the holidays with my two little nephews who are 3 and 6, and they are all about the things, all about the presents they get. It's not like we outgrow that. And so if I might sum up all of these different things, you might say those are all kind of manifestations or outgrowths of the idea that in order for me to be happy, I need the world to be different. Something is wrong, something needs to be changed. And it's not just, the big things that I was talking about. It's often, it feels like what keeps us from happiness is something very small. The room is a couple degrees too cold, or, this meal doesn't taste as good as I thought it would. It might ruin our mood. It might feel like it prevents us from being happy. So you might ask yourself, how much of your life do you spend on this sort of stuff? On this this wanting, this movement towards trying to be happy, under the idea that I need the world to be different in order for that to happen. From my perspective, most people spend most of their life in that mindset, trying to fix, trying to change, trying to make the world different in order for them to feel okay or feel happy. And the question I would ask with no judgment at all is, how's that working out for you? Like how many times have you succeeded in getting what you wanted? Has it made you happy in a lasting way? Certainly there are times in your life when you were happy, maybe even long periods of time. But does it ever last? And do you think the next time is going to be any different? The next thing that you want, if you get that, is that going to bring you some kind of lasting happiness? Or is this way of living life kind of like, doggy paddling? If you know what that is, that's the first way they teach you to swim. It's just you're kind of hanging in the water, trying to push yourself up. And you push yourself up, and you're above the water for a little bit, but you immediately sink back down unless you push yourself up again. And I think that's a metaphor for a good metaphor for how we live our lives. We keep trying to find happiness in arranging circumstances in a particular way, but it doesn't last. You always got to keep doing it. You got to keep paddling to keep your head above water. And this idea that I need the world to be different in order to be happy. In Pali, the word for this is tanha. And it's often translated as thirst, which is, or craving, which is a good translation. But thirst is the word I like for really getting across the feel for the thing. And thirst in kind of the sense that, if you go out on a hike and you forget your bottle of water, so you might be out all day and it's hot and you're sweating, and by the time you're almost back to the car, the mind is just it's almost like monomaniacal on this idea of water, of getting something to drink. You're counting down the steps to your car, or you're just daydreaming about how good that water is going to taste, or maybe beating yourself up about why didn't I bring my water. That's kind of the feel for the thing. Life is like that sometimes. There's just this kind of constant, monomaniacal desire to change the world to fit how we think we need it to be in order to be happy. So I think of it as this kind of like almost constant voice in our lives, kind of directing us in this particular way. And the thing about tanha is that it doesn't work. It promises you one thing, it promises you lasting happiness, but it doesn't work. When you want something to be different, when you're caught up in this tanha, one of two things can happen. You have the tanha, you have this suffering, and you don't get the object that you're trying to get. You don't make the thing happen that you want to happen. And there's more suffering. So the other possibility is that you have this tanha, this suffering, and you get the thing that you want. And you may find some happiness, not always, but sometimes. But that happiness is impermanent. It always fades away. And it's because of the nature of the world. This is something that we see in practice. This is something that the Buddha said, anicca. All phenomena that arise and pass away are impermanent. So everything that we could want in that way, all the things that I mentioned, all the kind of relationship stuff, or how people see you, or all the material things, or how the body is, all of that is impermanent. And so even if you were to get everything you wanted exactly perfectly how it is, you might find a lot of happiness in that, but soon enough things would change. And your happiness would change too. So this tanha doesn't work, at least not in any kind of lasting sense. When we're stuck in it, we don't see the bigger picture. We're just stuck in, I'm suffering because I don't have this thing, and if I get this thing, things will be better. We don't see the bigger picture. Ramana Maharshi often gave the parable of the 10 foolish men. So these 10 men wanted to cross a river in India. It was a very dangerous river, and so they crossed it. And one guy wanted to make sure all of his friends were okay. And so everybody gets in a circle, and he starts with the person on his left, and he counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He gets the person on his right, and he counts 9. And he stops. He doesn't see himself. He's very sad because someone must have died. There's only 9 people. And the other people count in the same way. And everybody's very sad because they think someone has died. And it's that same kind of principle with tanha. We see the world as, I'm going to be happy if I get this one thing. We don't see the bigger picture. We don't see what happens is that, whether we do get the thing or we don't get the thing, we're going to move on to the next thing, and then it's going to be, oh, I'm going to be happy if I get this other thing, and on and on and on. It's this kind of never-ending cycle. The Buddha talked about this as the wheel of samsara, and I don't know what wheel he had in mind when he was talking about the wheel of samsara, but in my mind, it's always a hamster wheel. Let me show you this picture I've made. Yeah, that's the hamster wheel of samsara. And so we can see here this lovely, delicious chocolate cake of lasting happiness. And we can also see here this poor man who's caught up in tanha, who, no matter how hard he tries or how fast he runs or how much time he spends going after it, if he stays on that wheel, he's never going to get the cake. He's never going to get lasting happiness. And I like this way of looking at this because it really gets across the futility of living from that voice of tanha, of just kind of trying to find happiness by satisfying your desires. You can spend your whole life doing that, and you won't reach it. You won't reach lasting happiness. You might make your life better in the kind of mundane way, but you won't reach enlightenment. You won't reach perfect peace. So the Buddha kind of put this in context in a pretty good way. This is from the Asa Sutta, the Tears Sutta. I won't read the whole thing, but he's talking about the suffering involved in being on this wheel of samsara. He says, for a long time, monks, you have experienced suffering of the death of your father, the death of your brother, the death of your sister, the death of your son, the death of your daughter, the loss of your relatives, the loss of your wealth, the pain of sickness. As you've experienced this, crying and weeping because being united with unfriendly people and unpleasant things, and separated from loved ones and loved belongings, the stream of tears that you have shed is more than the water in the four great oceans. What is the reason for that? It is because, monks, this cycle of rebirth is endless. The beginning of this extremely long journey cannot be discovered. These beings, hindered by lack of knowledge of the true nature of life and bound by craving, roam and wander on this endless journey. For such a long time, monks, you've experienced various types of suffering, tragedies, and disasters. You've filled the cemetery with your dead bodies. Therefore, monks, the time has come for you to understand the meaningless nature of all conditioned things. The time has come for you to become detached from them. And the time has come for you to be liberated from them. So we continue on the cycle because we misunderstand where happiness comes from. I have an illustration here. This represents, it's a little heart, it's a little squeezy ball. This represents our true nature, right? This is a heart that's at peace, and it's completely unbound, and doesn't keep anything or anyone out. What we can observe from this is our true nature. This fully open heart that's at peace doesn't need anything. It's there just as it is. It doesn't require any tanha to make it happen. What happens when we bring tanha, this idea that I need the world to be different, into the picture is this. I need this person to like me. I need to have this object, this thing to be happy. I need my boss to see me a certain way. I need my body to feel a certain way. It's this. This is what happens. We can live our life like this. And I wanted to make 2 points in this talk. And the first point is this. This is where tanha gets you. Tanha gets you to the point where the love and the peace of your true nature might be unrecognizable. You might look at your life and see, I don't really see much peace or love, or maybe just a little bit. And the happiness that you find is just kind of coming out through the cracks in the tanha. Tanha points in the way of suffering. It does not point to the way of lasting happiness. Lasting happiness is found by letting go of tanha, of this, just letting it be. That's the point I wanted to make. And this is the third noble truth. The Buddha gave us 4 noble truths, and the third is the cessation of craving leads to the cessation of suffering. It's just that point. So I think many folks come to practice with some inkling of this. Maybe it's more or less developed, but at least most of us have spent some time trying to find happiness in the world in the kind of ways that I've been talking about, by accumulating money or things or that sort of stuff. We've tried that, and we have at least some sense that it doesn't work. And so we come to practice, and maybe we find something that we like in it. We sit and meditate, and that feels really good. Or we do some of the kindness practices, and we really like that. We really like the way that feels. And so we might have the idea that the way I become happy is to do this practice, and to follow the Dharma, to do all the things. And I think most people, maybe not everyone, but I think most people, when they come to practice, hold it in the same way that we typically hold other things. And so practice becomes like this. Practice becomes, I should sit more, and I need to go on retreat, and I'm not as good as this other practitioner over here. And we hold it in this way. And And so, someone doing that might ask, am I doing something, is this any different than anything else that I would do? Is this any different than trying to find happiness in, getting money or getting the perfect relationship or something like that? And the answer is, it's the same and it's also not the same. You can definitely hold practice in that same way that causes harm, like this. I've seen people who have very strong ideas of what their practice should be, like what kind of Buddhist they should be, or what kind of mind state they should have, or what benefits they should have accrued. And when they don't meet that, it can be very hard for them. But it's also different in that the practice is it's meant to lead away from tanha. So if you have craving to practice, you're kind of having craving to end craving. And so if we go back to this hamster wheel analogy, practice would be like, you come to practice, you're running kind of full tilt on this hamster wheel. Practice is a way to slow down, to go from a run to a jog to a walk. But ultimately, practice is about something more than just suffering less, less tanha. The Buddha said, I teach suffering in the end of suffering. He didn't say, I teach suffering and less suffering. Practice is about something else. It's about stepping fully off of that hamster wheel. It's about fully letting go. It's about doing this. No grasping. So if you practice in this way, with this kind of craving, with this like strong need to be a certain way, it's not that this is bad for you. It's good for you, but you're missing the true purpose of practice. There's a lovely poem that I like. So this is by Teijitsu, who was a abbess of a Buddhist monastery in Japan in the 1700s. It says, she saw that all phenomena arose, abided, and fell away. She knew that knowing this, itself arose, abided, and fell away. And then she knew that there was nothing more than this. No ground, nothing to lean on. Nothing to lean on stronger than the cane she held. Nothing to lean upon at all, and no one leaning. And she opened the clenched fist in her mind and let go, and fell into the midst of everything. And this is the second point I wanted to make. Practice is to be held with gentleness. It's not to be grasped at. It's not something to kind of achieve or master in the way that one might master anything else in the world. It's to be held with gentleness. Practice is a gift. You showed up here tonight, and whatever benefit from your practice that you get, it occurred because it was conditioned by things that are outside of your control. You practiced here today and got whatever benefit that you did because of everybody else here. If we were not here, you would not be here, and you would not be practicing in this way. Your practice here was conditioned by the Buddha and everyone in the 2,600 years since that has continued the teachings. If they would not have done that, you would not be practicing here today. This practice is a gift. It's something to be cherished and just held in a very kind way, not something to kind of look at and want more necessarily. When someone gives you a gift, you just accept the gift and feel grateful for it. You don't get upset because it wasn't something else. It's the same way with practice. That's what I have to offer tonight. thank you all for coming. I have a couple of announcements before I open up the room for questions about the talk or about the sit or anything going on in your practice. As some of you guys know, Dhammadeepa is in India right now, and she's going to be at Bodh Gaya soon, the place where the Buddha was enlightened. And she's offering to do chanting for folks. So if you have someone in your life who would appreciate being chanted for, also someone who's passed away, you can let her know by email, or if you have her WhatsApp, you can send her a message. She said she would be happy to do that for folks. And there's also some scheduling things I wanted to mention. Right now, all of the programs, all the regular programs are going on kind of as normal, except for Friday, the Friday Sutta contemplations. But we're going to have guest teachers for most of the month of February on the Sunday program and the Tuesday program, this one. So I just wanted to point that out. And lastly, there is a Sangha brunch coming up this weekend